Hello my friends, this is Jeannie. Welcome back. If you are new to my channel, welcome. In this video, I am going to start a new journal project. It is going to be another Wizard of Oz journal, but this time I am using the Graphic 45 Wizard of Oz collection to make my journal. This journal will also be different from my last Wizard of Oz journal, because in this one I am going to construct the cover from scratch, and in this one I'm going to have 3 signatures instead of 2. 2 of the signatures are going to be the standard style signatures in that they are going to be made from paper, and the 3rd signature is going to be made completely out of a file folder. I'm going to use a file folder to create something kind of like a folio that will be the center signature of my book. I have never done that type of signature before. I was inspired by some recent videos that I watched, so I am still trying to figure out that process. I think what I'm going to do is make a sample one, see how it works out, and if it works out well, I will share that process for making it. So that'll be another video down the road. In this video, what I'm going to focus on is constructing the covers the cover for the journal, and I will share with you my process, my thoughts for coming up with the measurements. I'm also going to wrap the cover in Tyvek, and then in the second video what I'll share with you is how I then wrap that cover in fabric. The fabric I am going to use is fabric I used for the first journal as well. It's that blue and white gingham that's a throwback to Dorothy's dress. I'm going to use that, but that'll be a separate video. Okay, so let's get right into this one. As I said, I'm going to make this cover from scratch. I am going to use some lightweight chipboard that I have in my stash. Ideally, I would like for the chipboard to be a little heavier, but I don't have heavyweight chipboard. I have the lightweight. The way I solve that problem is I take 2 pieces of my lightweight chipboard and I glue them together, and it makes them, double the strength. My chipboard I purchased offline. I couldn't tell you where. It must have been a sale at some point because I have a lot of it, and I buy it in 12 by 12 sheets. I have a guillotine style cutter here that I use to cut down my chipboard, but if you don't have something to that capacity, then you might be better off getting 8.5 by 11 size chipboard, because it's much more manageable to cut down. In terms of the size of my chipboard covers, I'm going to need 2 pieces. One is going to be the front cover and one's going to be the back cover. Those 2 are going to be exactly the same, okay, and then in terms of measurement. And then I'm going to need a center, or the spine. The way I came up with the measurements is I take my signature, I measure my signature, and in this case, this signature is 8 tall, 6 wide. I like to have a 1/4 inch hang, or I like my cover to be a 1/4 inch bigger than the signatures, so that the signatures fit inside without peeking out. So for the 8 tall, I added a 1/2 inch, bringing me to 8.5, so that I have that 1/4 at the top and 1/4 at the bottom. And for the width measurement, I only added a 1/4 inch, because I only need one side of my book to be slightly larger than the signature. So I took my 6 and I added a 1/4 inch. So the size of my covers are going to be 8.5 by 6.25. The spine is going to be that same 8.5 height, okay? And in terms of width, That all depends on the number of signatures you're going to have and how much space you like between your signatures. My journal is going to have 3 signatures, and I like a minimum ½ inch between each signature. So I am going to go with a 2-inch wide spine. Okay, that will allow me to fit in 3 signatures with a ½ inch between each of the signatures, and a ½ inch from the front to the first signature and from the back to the last signature. That'll probably make more sense when I put in the signatures, but that's why I use the 2-inch wide spine. Something else I did, I think I mentioned that I like to wrap my covers in Tyvek. If you don't know what Tyvek is, I don't know if I already explained it. If I did, forgive me, but Tyvek is a very strong material. It's the same material that's used for mailers in the post office. And I am in no way, shape, or form suggesting you should go to the post office, take their mailers, and use them to construct your covers. That's actually illegal, my friends. But what you can do is, if someone mails you something, you can repurpose the mailer to make your journal, or you can just buy Tyvek online. I buy mine on Amazon. I buy these super large envelopes. Normally what I do is just do a quick search for Tyvek, Tyvek, I believe is how you spell it, envelopes. And I buy, whatever is the best reviewed at the cheapest prices and comes with the most. I tend to stick to the bigger envelopes because I do like to wrap my entire cover in Tyvek. I know some people just like to use a strip down the center to connect the front cover, the back cover, and the spine. But I am more comfortable, I feel more comfortable using Tyvek to wrap the entire book. So I go for the bigger envelopes, because then I can just open them up and all I have to do is cut it down to whatever size I need. It's easier in my mind to cut down something to size than it is to piece things together to try to come up with something larger that you may need for your project. That's just my thinking. Okay, so I have my front cover, I have my back cover, and I have my spine. What I did was I used double-sided tape. You can probably see that shiny reflection. That's double-sided tape. I've peeled off the red release, so you wouldn't be tortured by watching me struggle to try to do that on camera. And I covered all 3 of my pieces in that double-sided tape. Also, to make life easier for me, what's very important when putting your cover together is that your front cover, your spine, and your back cover are all perfectly straight going across. If it's just a little bit off, it throws off your entire book. It won't close properly, it won't stand properly, and if you're anything like me and borderline OCD, it'll drive you insane that your book is a little wonky. The way I deal with that is, once I open up my Tyvek envelope, I get a large ruler, a straight edge, and I measure, I basically use a pencil to create a reference line, nice straight line going from side to side that I will use to line up the tops of my pieces, and they will be as straight as humanly possible. And also, I don't have to worry about, I know some people use kind of like a straight edge and then abut their pieces up against it, and then hope to God they don't move while you're trying to stick things. I'm not going to hope that way, because I know I'm going to knock something, it's going to move. So I'm just going to have my reference line going across. So I put the tape on one side, and ignore this right here for now. I'll explain that in the next step. But then what I do, and you can start with the spine and work your way out, or start at the other side. When you have this line across, I find it doesn't matter. Just make sure that Of course, it's centered properly on your Tyvek so that you have enough paper to wrap. Your Tyvek should be big enough so that you can wrap at least over the edges of the book, right? So what I'm going to do is start with the spine. So let's put the spine down. Let me just double check that I have the space I need. And again, I have I have my brayer. You don't need a brayer. You can just use your hands and flatten it, but since I have my brayer, I use my brayer just to make sure there's a good contact. Okay. Now, whether you start from the front and work your way over, or you start by putting down your spine piece first and then work your way out, what's critical is between each of these pieces, there needs to be a tiny, tiny little gap, like maybe 1/8 of an inch. The purpose of that gap is so that there is space for your covers to open and close. If you just push this up against the spine and glue it in that way, you are not going to be able to open and close this. It is going to be a complete and utter disaster. If you're using paper, the paper is going to rip. You're going to be frustrated because it's just not going to open and close properly. That tiniest little space, and in this case, I'm going to say maybe about 1/8 of an inch, is critical to the book working properly. Okay, it's not a huge space, it's just a tiny space. It'd be nice if I turned my brayer the right way. Brayer. Tomato, tomato. Potato, potato. Okay, so now that'll open and close, no problem. Okay, and now we're going to do the same here. I have to make sure. Okay, so now all I have to do is basically wrap this up just like this. Nice little present. Okay, I'm not even going to bother to cut off this excess on the bottom. As far as I'm concerned, the more the merrier, because it'll just wrap more of the book in that Tyvek material. What I will probably do is just cut away some of the excess in the corners so that I can fold it over without too much resistance. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm not worried too much about making sure that the corners of the book are covered in the Tyvek, because two reasons. One, oh, I'm sorry if I bumped the camera. One, I am going to wrap the cover in fabric, and two, I am going to use, I'm just cutting here a little bit, I am going to use book corners on my book just so that it looks a little more finished. I'm a big fan of the book corners. So while I try to be neat about the book corners, on how I wrap them, I try not to obsess too much, which is, you know, not easy for me because we all know I like to obsess. So I think what I'm going to do is bring in the sides in first and then bring in the top and the bottom next. Okay, so now you probably have a better understanding of why I put the double-sided tape around the entire perimeter of the book, and that is so that when I fold the Tyvek over, it'll have something to stick on. Now what I could do, and I am going to do, is just add another strip of the double-sided tape along the Tyvek itself. So it's definitely going to be sticking to that cover. Today is Sunday. I did spend some of Saturday in my craft room, but it was more organizing and prep of my signatures and pulling together whatever I would need for the projects I planned on working on today. I also had to get some boxes together on some prize mail that has to go out. So if you're waiting for some prize mail from me, that should be going to post this coming week. Also had some Girl Scouts I had to deal with this weekend. Cookies are in, so we had a big sort of cookies, and I had to get all the deliveries ready. So tomorrow, being Monday, I get to carry two very large, super large bags of cookies with me, like those huge bags that you can get from TJ Maxx or Tuesday Morning, those reusable shopping bags. They're huge. I have to carry over 75 boxes of cookies with me into the city. So it's going to make for a very interesting commute in the morning, but it is what it is. And you know what the best part of this is? This weekend, my Harry Potter is back on. If you've been watching my videos, you know I like to watch me some Harry Potter while I'm crafting, and usually without fail, there's a marathon of Harry Potter. But I think for the past 2 weeks, no marathon. But today, the marathon. So what I'm doing now is, now that I've put that double-sided tape on the edges, I am peeling it off. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold this over. Okay, so I'm going to start. Oh, silly girl. You know what I didn't do? God help me. Oh, it stays that way. Do you see what I didn't do? I didn't peel away I didn't peel away this red tape. Ay, ay, ay. Live and learn. There we go. No biggie. No biggie. More silly than anything else. I find this method for pulling the release paper off to be the best and quickest. Okay, so now let's do that. Let's continue the fold over that edge. I'm going to fold up bottom. Another reason why I like to cover the entire cover in Tyvek is because it leaves me with this nice white base that when I cover in fabric, if it's a lighter fabric, will only brighten up the fabric. If I put a lighter fabric over that chipboard base, I find it dulls the appearance of the fabric a little bit, whereas if it's entirely covered in white, right, it's just brighter and nicer. So this is what we have so far, right? There's the cover, super sturdy. Now I just use whatever tool I have on hand here just to kind of form the Tyvek into those gaps. And then you have your cover. I have a little bit of a, you see that overhang there of the Tyvek. Easy to deal with. Just cut that. And again, when I put fabric down, it will completely cover that up. But I'm going to use my scissors to trim away some of that excess now. It's not a difficult process, but it's one you should take your time doing, because if you do it well, then you have an excellent base to work from. Look at that. That is the finished product. Super neat, super clean, super strong. So then and if you want, you can even put a strip of Tyvek across here to cover that up, but my fabric is going to cover that up, so I'm not too worried about it. If I had a spare or like a scrap of Tyvek that I just wanted to use up, because you know the options are use it or it goes to waste, and yeah, I would probably cover that up, but I don't think I need to for this particular book. What I'm going to do in the next video is use this fabric to completely cover the cover. Cover the cover. Inside and out. Okay, and you'll get, this is what I mean when I say, you know, a light color base is definitely better for lightweight fabric, especially if it's a little bit sheer as this is, because that bright white is going to just make your own fabric seem that much brighter and whiter. So I like that. Very clean look. So that is the first step in making the cover. And again, all you need is some heavier weight, either cardstock. You can use multiple sheets. You can use an old shoebox, old cardboard, cereal boxes. If you have chipboard, use chipboard, but something sturdy to create your front cover, your back cover, and your spine. And then some Tyvek or similarly strong material to help hold them together to create, or join them all together to create the book. And some super strong adhesive. You have those three things and you'll have yourself a super strong cover, my friends. So I think I'm going to stop this video at this point, and in the next video I will share with you how I cover this book in fabric. So thank you for watching, my friends. I truly do appreciate it. If you are visiting me for the first time and you haven't subscribed, please do so. I would love to have you. If you haven't activated that bell, please do so. That way you will receive notifications anytime I post. And I hope to catch you all in the next video, my friends. Until next time, bye-bye.